Good morning, everyone, and aloha. Thank you. Mahalo. I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm joined here by my wife, Gail, and my press secretary, Bill Brennan. We wanted to be here. I have you know that the U.S. Conference of Mayors has opened up its proceedings this morning, but I told them I'm going to take a little time out because I want to go and sing to the choir. I am a passionate arts advocate. I have the distinction of coming from the city where our president was born and raised, but I also hail from a city and have the distinction of being the tallest arts advocate in America. Now, having said that, I want to address one important point with you today, and that is, if indeed the arts is in a crisis mode, and certainly there are statistics that would suggest that, I'm saying to you, look no further than mayors to be your advocate, to be your champion. The proof in the pudding, or as you say in Hawaii, the proof in the poi, is this. In our 10-point action plan, we've actually gone on record, along with infrastructure, public safety, education, all the kinds of things that you expect your mayors to do. We've listed arts and tourism as part of our 10-point action plan. You see, we get it. We joined American for the Arts and the great leader here, Bob Lynch, in going to New Hampshire in the fall of the presidential campaign, when the campaign just began, and basically asked the presidential candidates at that time to make the arts part of their policy platform. And many of them responded as a result of our call for action. We know that there needs to be greater attention at the national level, and I can't say enough of arts leaders like Representative Slaughter and Norm Dix for their ongoing advocacy efforts in the Congress. But at the end of the day, we need greater emphasis on the arts. We need a cabinet-level position, something that the U.S. Conference of Mayors have advocated for a long, long time. It's not growing government needlessly. It's growing government for a meaningful purpose, and that is to take advantage of what the arts can do for our communities. We believe that funding for the National Endowment for Arts and the Humanities cannot be sacrificed at the altar. This is not the time to cut the arts. If anything, we should embrace and sustain and contribute to the arts more than ever. We're calling for a White House summit on the arts so that we can bring together arts advocates from out the 50 states of America and come up with a focused action plan to bring about greater awareness and appreciation for the arts. Because at the end of the day, it really means three things for us. Number one, the arts define the essence and soul of a city, of a state, of our country. We are the only state in the Union that has a monarchical past. We've been ruled by kings and queens who embraced the arts. One of our kings, King David Kalakaua, nickname was the Merry Monarch because he went everywhere through song and dance to promote the Hawaiian Islands back then. Our last queen was a great composer. So it's incumbent upon us, those who are so-called modern-day leaders, to continue to embrace the arts because it lets everybody know what this spirit of aloha is all about that sets us apart from many other parts of the world. Number two, it is a proven economic revenue generator. My goodness, $166.2 billion industry creates thousands of jobs. And that tends to be neglected or overlooked when we talk about the arts. We in our Chinatown district in Honolulu, when I was a councilman, thanks to the prodding of my wife, who doesn't let me forget the arts, as she is a passionate supporter of the arts, we came up with this concept of an art enterprise zone, where we took rundown buildings and said, let's turn that into art incubators. And so we developed what we call the Arts at Mark's Garage, a building next to a garage, where now it's become a gathering place for the artists in Chinatown to gather. It's now has gone beyond Chinatown just being a melting pot for the immigrant groups that have come to Hawaii. But every Friday we have a thing called the First Friday celebrations, where art galleries, restaurants, theaters open up their doors, not just for residents, but for visitors, and has created lots of jobs and economic opportunities. And thirdly, as we all know, it helps our kids get better prepared to enter the workforce. Scores of anecdotal evidence exists out there of how our educational system is falling behind. It seems to me that we need to embrace the arts. It gives that young student that creative capacity to be able to expand their horizons, to be able to feel good about themselves. There's an initiative that we do in our city where every year this particular nonprofit group works with students in public housing projects, many of them coming from broken homes. And they ask them to take a photograph and be creative of a loved one in their family. Some of them's parents are incarcerated. Some of them haven't seen their parents in years, or they live with their grandma or an adopted uncle and aunt. I can't tell you the difference, seeing the positive difference it makes to these young kids when the mayor invites them to City Hall, has their photographs on display for all to see, the self-esteem that comes to these young kids, many of them now who I've seen a couple years later, and talk about how they've used that as an opportunity to do better in school. And that can only help all of us at the end of the day. So I'm here this morning to let you know that this is very, very important that you hold your elected officials' feet to the fire. If you know of a mayor in your town that is not embracing the arts, you tell them a 6'7", 245-pound Polynesian mayor from Hawaii wants to talk to them. It's very important that they do so. But I also have a message here this morning for those of you in the nonprofit arts advocacy world. You know, the good book says the good Lord only helps those who help themselves. So let me just point out some suggestions that I think will help those of us in government that want to help you make a stronger case for yourself. Number one, I tell the nonprofit arts groups in my city, and I have 4 cabinet level or senior department agencies devoted to the arts. I have a mayor's office of culture and the arts. I have a mayor's office of economic development. I have a full-fledged Honolulu film office, and I have a department of enterprise services where we proactively go out and attract major art exhibitions or presentations, Broadway plays, classical music, and the like to come to our city. Number one, it's important that you incorporate sound business principles. Let's face it, the perception of some in the community is that if you invest with nonprofit groups or if you partner with those that promote the arts, somehow it turns out sometimes that it's not a good business investment because artists are not trained in the business world and the like. I say phooey to that. Okay, we have shown time and time again that when you work with nonprofit groups, with the artists, incorporate sound business practices and the like, you can show that return on investment. American from the Arts has come to us and said for every $1 that we put into the arts, we get a $7 return in investment. And I think that fact should not be lost on anyone, and so that's very, very important. Number two, if you're seeking government funding, if you have government funding, please be open and transparent with your financial books. That's very, very important because there are those out there that would like to dismiss what the arts community contributes. I have a challenge right now in home, and I'll be very blunt about it. Our Honolulu Symphony is in danger of going by the wayside. And one of the reasons, despite the well-intentioned efforts of a lot of philanthropic organizations in the past and good businessmen and women, is that they haven't done a good job in running the organization of the symphony. World-class symphony conductors, world-class musicians, but it's the business practices that are keeping them from being able to be a viable entity today, and that's very important. Number three, educate, educate, educate. Do your homework. Find out about those who are you trying to appeal to, and find out what makes them tick. There are ways in which you can appeal to them so that they'll want to be part of it, because at the end of the day, it's all about the ask. I have a friend that told me this basic maxim that I've always remembered: ask a favor, gain a friend. And it's very important that you do that. The ask is very important, but I think doing your homework in that regard is very important. I just heard here today about the grant, for example, from the Kresge Foundation. I hope I'm not breaking protocol with our great United States Senator from Hawaii, the Chair of Appropriations, Senator Daniel Inouye, who, as you know, is a strong supporter of the arts. Well, his wife, Irene, is a member of the board of the Kresge Foundation. See, those are the kind of things that are very helpful, so that when you come before government and policymakers and you're able to say to them, oh, I know this about your background and so forth, it'll bring a smile to their face. It'll also make them want to support the arts. One of the best things that people in Honolulu do is they come to me and tell me how active my wife is in the Hawaii Arts Alliance, or they see my wife being involved in nonprofit that promote the arts and advocacy. So you'll get a much more receptive listening ear in that regard. So my friends, I thank you all for what you've done with the arts. I want to thank Bob Lynch for the American for the Arts for their great partnership. They certainly have raised the consciousness, raised the saliency of the importance of the arts. Certainly this index is going to go a long way for us to show compelling statistics and data on why the arts are important. And last but not least, what every good mayor likes to do, it's all about promoting and marketing your arts. And I think that the more that you can incorporate elected officials in your promotion, please do that. I tell folks in my city, in my state, you send me any place in the world, time permitting, I will go. Because when I walk through that door, there's no mistaking that I am the mayor of Honolulu, the state of Hawaii, by the way that I look. And in that regard, we do things like this. I wanted to point out to you, we just brought out a publication called Exploring the Arts in Honolulu. We have a calendar. We take advantage of our president. We put him right on the front page of our calendar of arts events in our city. And last but not least, I'm also known as the singingest mayor in America. We put out DVDs and CDs of the mayor singing. So I will give this away as a marketing tool for you to come and visit our city and see for yourself why we have a vibrant arts culture. For the first person here not from Hawaii that can tell me what year Hawaii became a state. 1959. Come up and get this great rendition of I Fell in Love with Honolulu. Thank you very much, everybody. We love the arts. Keep up the great work.